Agenda item 25 and 31 will be discussed later today. Okay, Rachel.
Yes.
Please do our next agenda item.
Thank you. Let me go to that on my screen. There we are. I would like to move for approval of the December 5th, 2023 Zoom video conference board meeting minutes as published.
I have a second.
I'll second that.
Rachel, did you get that?
I have seconded by Newkirk.
Yep.
Thank you, Daryl.
Yep.
Any discussion? Any objections?
Rich, this is Pam. My hand is up.
Hi, Pam.
I do have some concerns about publishing the, I think it's number 5 on the online motions.
Okay, can we do that after we approve my?
Oh, I'm sorry, Rachel. I'm skipping ahead. Never mind.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Any objections? Seeing no objection, motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, Pam Delabar, what would you like to do with number 5?
I would like to take that out of the motion for now and consider it possibly to go into, in reviewing the discussion, I think it should have been an executive session, but it's up to the rest of the board how they feel about it.
So Pam, is your motion to remove number 5 from the open minutes?
Correct.
Okay, may I have a second?
Russell seconds.
Thank you, Russell. Discussion? Objections? Seeing no objections, Pam, your motion passes unanimously. That will be removed from the open session minutes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you, Rachel.
Okay, I would like to move to ratify motions 1 to 3, motion number 2 under 4, motions 6 through 9 and 11. Those are the motions that carried.
May I have a second?
Delabar seconds.
Thank you, Pam. Discussion? Objections? Seeing no objection, motion passes unanimously. Rachel, do you have anything further?
That's it. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Rachel.
You're welcome.
We are going to now move to Ed Raymond, show rules.
Good morning, folks.
Good morning.
Rich, I have my hand up. Carol.
Let's see, Carol.
Yeah. I just want to make a standing motion to approve all the show rule changes as presented, reserving the right to vote no.
Thank you, Carol. May I have a standing second, please?
Kenny, standing second.
Thank you, Kenny. This moves things along.
Right to vote no.
Thank you. Ed?
Okay. The first change is one that is coming back to the board. It was tabled at a prior meeting. At the request of Pam Delabar, we have amended 3.02B to include the geographic areas where an associate judge may judge.
Oh, thank you.
We've also tried to simplify the language of 3.13 to make it clear the number of rings which must be judged by a CFA judge, with the remainder to be judged either by a guest judge or a combination of associate judges.
Okay, Kathy Calhoun.
Thank you. Can we go back to 3.02B? I wanted to advise the board that this show rule has been, although it has been there, It was an existing wording. The additions of the restrictions on countries drew new attention to it. We reviewed this both in the diversity and inclusion with committee meeting and with the ID committee meeting, and neither committee are in favor of this. If you would allow me to read just one of the some of the comments that we received from our committee members. Do we have time to do that?
Go ahead, Kathy.
Okay. CFA has always encouraged judges to judge and train in a variety of geographic areas. This is to give them experience with other cats, other looks to improve their judging. Limiting associate judges to such narrow areas could negatively impact their judging skills. We should encourage them to improve their skills and broaden their vision. In a global market, it is a step in the wrong direction. If we limit them to one area, we create the impression that their judging is somehow less than other judges. Wins by exhibitors living in those areas served by the associate judges would be suspect if their judges were relegated by CFA into being a second class. I would also like to add that the international division clubs spend an extraordinary amount of money to bring in judges from other areas. It would be a tremendous help if they had access to more of the associate judges so that countries like Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore would not have to use the same associate judges repeatedly, but they would be able to use other associates that could come to the table at a better price, a more economical airfare. So for those reasons, both committees, the Diversity and Inclusion and the ID Committee, are not in support.
Okay, Pam Delabar.
I know where Kathy's coming from on this, but right now this reflects the current rules. And until such time that this board passes new rules allowing Region 9 associate judges to go judge in Hong Kong or Singapore or even China, we should have the information available to us of where the associate judges can judge. But right now, this reflects the current rules and policy.
Daryl?
I agree with Pam on this. When this program was set up, these people knew that they would be limited as associate judges to these geographical areas. If they want to judge in other areas, then enter the regular CFA judging program.
Marilee?
Yep, I'm with Daryl and Pam on this as well. It's already in our rules. This is just making it more defined and easy for everyone to read and understand. And we actually are accepting several of our associate judges into the regular judging program to be trained and able to travel wherever they would like to judge.
Rachel?
Thank you. I have a request to let Vicky in. She wants to speak on this topic as judging program co-chair. And while I have the floor, I agree with the comments immediately preceding mine, and would like to encourage these people to come to the regular judging program. This is a dramatic shift to expand it, as Kathy suggests, although I like some points in her suggestion very, very much. So I just think it's too much for right now without more thought on that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Rachel. I'm going to give Vicky some time to get in. I see she's there. I'm going to call on Ann first, then we'll go to Vicky. Ann?
when we trained without taking sides, this is just when these associates were trained, they only received breed training in breeds that they see in their area. So if we were to expand them to be able to show it or judge in other areas, I think we would need to provide them the training in those other breeds.
Okay, thank you, Ann. Vicky, are you available?
Yes, I'm available. Thank you, Russ, or thank you, Rich. I want to reiterate what Ann has just said. And also, Daryl, when we accepted these associate judges, and they were very aware that they would only be accepted in their areas. And as Ann mentioned, they've only been trained in the breeds that were going to be seen in their own geographic area. And again, we would love for them to take the step and join the regular judging program. Once they meet the requirements, then they can receive the hands-on training they need to be qualified to judge in any area that they would like to go to.
Okay, thank you, Vicky. Ann, do you have additional comments?
No, I think that was just the point I wanted to make, is that they were not trained, particularly China, an awful lot of the breeds they have not had training in.
Okay, thank you. Matthew Wong, would you like to speak on this?
Yeah, sure. There are two things I want to mention. First of all, I agree the historical DNA of this program. It was during COVID time. It was during certain restriction for people to travel. And the associate judges certainly did the CFA a lot of favor during COVID and the pandemic. So that was the history. And I hear what you're saying, that what we are seeing now is just printing it in black and white where they're being judged. But why Kathy and myself and the committees want to propose this is currently the assignment or the job being reviewed by, or when they are being invited, they're already managed by the judges committee. By putting this in black and white, it really limits where they could go and the flexibility. We had cases before where there were suddenly judges not available or sick, and we could summon associate judges within Southeast Asia, which is Malaysia, Thailand, Singapore, Indonesia. We think by not having this clearly put down in black and white, it will continue to give the flexibility for the clubs, for the Judges Association, and for the AJs to grow. Some may be ready, some may be not. And in fact, by putting it as black and white, and we got very vocal feedback from some of the AJs, they felt being used and they were hoping for promotion. But in fact, after 2-3 years of hard work, they've been told that's the end of the program, as far as they could go. Some of them are applying to the regular judges, not to complicate this matter, but some of them, they are not so comfortable with the English command. However, they see that they could also help in some of other local within the IDs, because, for example, Chinese is being spoken in like Singapore and also Malaysia a lot. Yeah. So that's just why we are voicing out what the ID fancier wants, but I will respect the board decision and also the judges committee. Thank you.
Pam Delabar.
What we are doing is just reflecting the current practice. Matthew, this cannot change until the board changes the program. So this helps the clubs when they're looking, like in December when Alan got sick and they needed to get somebody in, and they were able to get associate judges from Thailand and from Malaysia because they could easily grab on to the knowledge to get it. This is only a help to the clubs. It's not a reflection upon, oh, I'm sorry, you're just an associate judge and you can just go where you didn't know you could just go. When everything has been put forward to them and they know everything from the word go. I don't see what the problem is in having it in black and white.
Kathy
Or excuse
Calhoun.
me, and let me put this way to be more politically correct, to put it in print.
Kathy Calhoun.
Pam, I was going to give you a pass on the black and white. The practical, and I get what everyone is saying. I don't know what's going to happen to the associate judges program, but I would say that wherever this goes, we need to have the flexibility for judges to judge in other areas. It seems to be a little bit confusing when we passed a rule, I believe last meeting, where judges that are trainees that are training in China or come from China could not train in mainland. So, so we're saying that they should go elsewhere, trainees, but the JAs are relegated to their own areas. It just seems to be in conflict, those two positions. But I hear what the board is saying. This is an existing rule, and perhaps moving forward, we could make an adjustment in this rule at a later date.
Thank you,
if
Kathy.
the program continues to exist.
Okay. Question for Vicky and Russell. Kathy is asking, and is Matthew asking for flexibility under emergency circumstances? Will you exercise flexibility and use an exception to this rule if needed? Vicky?
I don't think these judges have been trained in many of these breeds, and I would hesitate to send a judge into an area to see large groups of cats that they were never trained in before. I understand that a regular CFA all breed judge judges areas where they see cats that they've never been approved to see before. However, they have lots more experience with understanding and applying a standard to a living cat. So I actually, it would be in conflict with the judging program rules also to try and change this. So things would need to be changed at once. And as Marilee mentioned, we have several associate judges getting the additional breed experience that they didn't have before when they joined the associate judging program, which are the requirements for the regular judging program. So I would prefer not seeing them being used in the case of an emergency. Yes, I would rather use an associate judge rather than a UCA judge if it would have to come to that.
Okay, thank you, Vicky.
And
Russell?
these things are exceptions.
Okay.
I agree
Russell?
with Vicky. They're only trained in certain class cats, and if it's an emergency like we had in December, I do agree instead of using an outside judge from another judging to use the associate judges. The gentleman that we used in December was very good, and he's a specialty. So I agree with what Vicky says. It's designed just for exceptions.
Okay, Kathy Calhoun.
I think that we've heard both sides, and I have nothing else to add and would like to move on.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to call for the vote on this. If you're in favor, raise your hand. While you're raising your hand, just a reminder, please do not take your hand down until I instruct you to take your hands down. Pam Delabar, Mike Shelton, Paulie, Pam Mosier, Marilee, Kenny, Daryl, Yokiko, Russell, Carol, Ann, Rachel, Kathy Dunham, Paula. Please lower your hand. If you're opposed, raise your hand. Kathy Calhoun, John, lower your hand. If you're an abstention, raise your hand. Rachel, I see no abstentions. Rachel?
That's 14 yes, 2 no, 0 abstentions.
Motion passes. Ed, please continue.
Okay, now we're going to move into the rules that were tabled in connection with OCP rings. My understanding is there was only a question about at the December board meeting regarding what is now rule number 5. We've gone back and hopefully cleaned it up a bit. So let's go through these one by one. Action item number 2 adds the definition of an OCP ring to show rule 2.39.
Okay. Pam Delabar. You're on mute, Pam.
Sorry. Do we need to vote on 3.13?
3.13 and was part of the same motion as 3.02B.
Okay, I'm sorry. I had it separate for the notes. Thank you.
Yep. Who else had their hand up and just took it down? Okay, I'm going to call on Kathy Calhoun.
I may be a little premature on this, but we are thrilled in the International Division to have the OCP rings defined to the detail that they are with the proposed wording. I think it's fabulous. And I know that was a lot of hard work for a lot of people, but I'm very happy. And the ID committee is very happy to see this.
Great. I believe Carol, Rachel, and Marilee were on this committee assisting Ed in these. Can we hear from Carol, Rachel, and Marilee if you have any comments?
I really like the way this is worded. Oh, I'm sorry. It's Mary Lee.
Go ahead, Marilee.
I really love the way this is worded. I think Ed cleaned it up really well. And I had no issues with the way this is written up.
Thank you. Carol?
I agree. A lot of work did go into this and a lot of little tweaking here and there, and the effort paid off. I think that the way it's written now is very clear and should not be an issue with anyone.
Okay, and Rachel, do you have anything?
Just that this was a great job and finally coming to clear language. Good job, Ed. Thank you.
Oh, good. Maybe those comments will carry over to the next couple then. Thank you. Kathy Calhoun?
I'd also like to make one comment that even though that this is would be considered experimental in this season, the ID committee is in support of clubs being able to have OCP rings in the International Division effective immediately.
Okay. Thank you. Pam Delabar?
Region 9 is looking forward to having the OCP rings. Hopefully this will remove some of the need for super specialties in the future.
Okay, great. Any objections to this motion? Seeing no objection, motion passes unanimously. Okay, Ed, let's go on to number 3.
3 sets forth the number of OCP rings which may be scheduled.
Okay, any discussion? Any objections? Seeing no objection, motion passes unanimously.
Number 4 amends the show rule to reflect the awards for OCP rings if applicable. Just adding them to the list of ribbons and rosettes.
Discussion? Objections? Seeing no objections, motion passes unanimously. Number 5.
Number 5 is where the questions were the last time. What I've done is taken the existing rule and made it under a subhead of standard all breed rings, added language for the OCP rings below. The language for the OCP rings very closely mirrors the existing language for standard all breed rings.
Discussion? Objections? Motion passes unanimously. Number 6.
Number 6 is again reflecting a different show rule to reflect the awards for OCP rings if applicable. Excuse me.
Discussion? Objections? Seeing no objection, motion passes unanimously. Number 7.
Number 7 updates the show rule to reflect the scoring calculations where best through 10th best champion or premier are awarded.
Discussion? Any objections? Seeing no objections, motion passes unanimously. Number 8.
All right, we are done with OCP rings. What follows are newly proposed changes that the board has not seen previously. Number 8 is adding to the show rules a requirement that the CFA Exhibitor Code of Ethics be included in the show catalog. I've seen it in the show catalog for the last 2 weekends shows that I've been at. I think it's a really good idea to get it in front of exhibitors.
Daryl?
Yes,
Daryl?
Daryl or Carol?
Daryl.
Okay.
Daryl with a D.
I just want to say I think this is an excellent idea. Ed and I happened to be at a show together where this was printed in the catalog, and of course not everybody reads what's in the catalog, but if they do, it serves as a reminder for how exhibitors should be conducting themselves at a show.
Thank you, Carol. Daryl?
My issue is back on number 3 on the OCP rings. So we could do away with this and then I'll make my
okay. Any further discussion on number 8? Any objections to number 8? Daryl, are you objecting to number 8? Okay, seeing no objections, number 8 passes unanimously. Okay, we need to go back to number 3. Daryl, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Kathy mentioned number 3 being effective immediately. Our show rules take effect on May 1. There was no amendment to that motion. So I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page here, that this rule takes effect on May 1, not immediately, because there was no motion or amendment to the wording here.
Okay, thank you, Daryl. Kathy Calhoun.
I believe what I said or hope to say, and it could be reflected in the minutes, that the experimental format, which is being used in other areas, 1 through 9, except for the ID, the one thing that we were waiting for was clear definition around the rules. We now have that. So the experimental format, it will be approved in the ID division effective immediately. And I thought that I said experimental.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that, Kathy and Daryl. So at this point in time, until the end of the year, any OCP requests still need to come to the board or the executive committee. Correct, Ed?
That is correct. It's still experimental until the 1st of May.
Okay, very good. And I think we have a couple of those coming up later, somewhere in this. Kathy?
Yeah, I just want to provide some clarity. What the clubs typically have been doing is coming to the ID committee before coming to the board. And most of the clubs that have been, denied the ability to have an OCP ring was postponed or directed to the fact that we did not have this level of detail in the instructions. So I'll modify this again, that the ID committee is in support of clubs in the international division to move forward with the experimental format, OCP experimental format, effective immediately.
Okay, thank you. We are going to move on to number 9.
So number 9 is the addition of rules governing special, quote unquote, finals. This is as amended by the language that Mike Shelton proposed. I would like to suggest an additional amendment to 21.12, where in the third sentence it says, all cats called for a final in full or in part, should be present. I'd like to change should, which is permissive, to shall, which is mandatory.
Okay, hang on one second.
Cats called for.
Eileen, do you have Mike's wording up? Okay. And you replaced it with shall. Okay, thank you. All right. Kenny?
Be open for discussion on this, or should I wait?
Yeah, I'm okay if we open for discussion on this.
Yeah, I think this is potentially a big imposition on our exhibitors. My primary concern is pre-COVID, we had a completely different flight schedule. Everything is consolidated. These people, especially if they come from out of town and need to make flights, some of our judges may not be as fast as other judges, and we're going to, you know, prevent them or not permit them to at least inquire, even if it's. To me, I just think it's not a good rule to impose upon our exhibitors. I think that you know, they expect this to be done at a certain time, and for whatever many different reasons, it would go over that time. And I just don't want to see any more rules written against our exhibitors.
Thank you, Kenny. Pam Delabar?
I judged a 225 show last weekend, and there were six rings running at the same time, all of us judging massive classes of cats. When we did our finals, it may have been not only in 2 parts, it may have been in multiple parts, because class judging still takes precedence over finals. And we might have, you know, a certain number of cats as part of the final, and we might have things really way out of order to hang. I think that 21.2 is far too restrictive on the judges. Not just the exhibitors, but especially when you're dealing with, as I said, a 225, and most of us haven't done a full 225 in a long time. It really is a scheduling nightmare, and I would hate to see a judge or an exhibitor be penalized for trying to work around in a situation like what we had last weekend. I want to go back to more of a recommended, or a recommended rule, rather than this is dead set, this is what you've got to do.
Kathy Dunham?
Thank you, Rich. This rule is really coming out of the exhibitors that are concerned that there is special favoritism being given to a few exhibitors and not extended to all exhibitors. I have stood in show halls and I have watched what I'm going to term as the privileged few walk up to a judging ring, ask if their cat's in the final, and ask for those ribbons to be hung so that they can leave. My time is just as precious as an exhibitor as anybody else's. I have commitments. I need to be back at work on Monday morning. I need to get on the road too.
Kathy, I think you froze.
Once the cat gets to the ring, if a judge opts to hang best cat first, because that cat is needed in another ring, I don't care about that. But the bottom line is, we are standing out in the show hall, patiently waiting for finals to be called. We all know that shows run over time. We should be accommodating our own travel schedules for that. There's no reason for special accommodations to be made when we all have the same importance in our lives and travel schedules. That's what this is trying to get at. Once the cats are present in the final, I don't care how a judge chooses to hang them. They can hang every other award. You know, I don't care. The bottom line is, we all need to, you know, look at this from all perspectives. And if you know that shows are going to run over, or you see a slate of judges that you know maybe a judge is a little slower than somebody else, you should make your travel arrangements accordingly. Not just assume that you can walk into a judge's ring and expect special treatment. That's where we're coming from with this.
Okay. Daryl?
Thank you, Rich. I understand that completely. However, I think the way this is worded is you can't do your final until every cat's in the ring, and that's the problem. You know, we have class judging going on, and I think Pam mentioned that takes precedence over the final. But you know, we could have a little more cooperation from some judges, I believe. I'm always willing to hang out of order and let the cat go to the other ring so it can do class judging. I've done that many times. But asking for special favors, I think, is a little out of line. That's it.
Rachel?
Thank you. Well, I think we need to balance between what's being called special favoritism versus punishing the exhibitors that are coming from the furthest distances and spending the most money to get to our shows. We need to give them value for that effort and the dollars they spend. Sometimes there are no options that would be better. There's no 9 o'clock flights, like as Daryl pointed out, there used to be before COVID. I mean, we're all struggling to make travel plans that work with the show's schedules. So I really don't think there's special favoritism. People are always going to claim foul. I mean, how is this a foul when someone's cat has already earned a spot in a final or not? Who does it harm if someone says, is my cat in the final? If not, I'm going to go make my flight. Who does that harm? The decision has already been made or not. So, if it looks like special favoritism, I don't know. As an exhibitor, I would not find that to be special favoritism. But people are always going to call foul over something they think there's a smoke there or fire. I don't think there is here. I think we have to give judges a little bit of flexibility. This rule, although the rewriting of the rule is very nice in 21.12, I still don't support it. I want to let our judges determine what's fair or not. The judge can always say, I don't want to show special favoritism, so I'm not giving out any final numbers. So I'd just like to leave that more in the judge's hands. I mean, there are judging professionals. Let's show them some courtesy. Thank you.
Kathy Calhoun?
So there seems to be a couple of ways that if a judge is running late and they've already calculated and they have their final ready, in 14.06 it said exhibitors will wait until the numbers are called or posted in the ring to learn if their cat's is in that final. So a judge has that option. If they've done their final, they know who's in it, they can post the numbers or have numbers called, and people can leave if they are not in the final. And then I think it said in 2112, and maybe I'm interpreting this incorrectly, that all cats called for a final in full or in part should be present in the ring as the judging schedule. Doesn't that allow you to the option that all the cats don't have to be there? It said all cats called for in a final in full or in part. And then to the comment about customer service and being able to tell an individual if they are in a final, if they come up and ask that question. Yes, the final has been prepared and is done, and the decision has been made. But we all know that the perception, when a specific person who is, running a cat, flying there, and typically that's a person that's probably flying from here to there, that really needs to know the perception for everybody else in the room is not good. So I support this.
Pam Mosier.
Yeah, kind of just going on what Kathy just said. I think that I'm torn on it actually, but I think the perception, because I had the opportunity this past weekend I was at a show where I was a spectator. And so I was sitting in a ring, and an exhibitor walks up to the judge, and all around me, I heard the other exhibitor saying, "Oh yeah, look what this person's doing," asking if they can go ahead and get, asking the judge if they can find out if their numbers are there. So I can see where some of these, the perception is the exhibitors are saying, why are they getting special treatment? So I'm just saying, from what I've heard from sitting in the audience, this is what our other exhibitors are saying.
Marilee.
Yes, I had a couple of points to bring up on this. It sounds like we're talking about after hours here. That if it's after show hours, is this what's happening? There's nothing that specifically talks about that, but if it's during the show hours, then I don't think anybody should be asking if their cat's in a final. So that's my first point, is the timing of this, and if it's worded during show hours or after show hours. The second would be, maybe there's something that we could do that's more convenient and equal to all exhibitors. I have seen some clerks, when it is getting close to the end of showtime, to say, we're going to go ahead and call our numbers for the final, but wait until, this judge is finished or that judge is finished doing whatever they're doing. And that way it seems more equal to all the exhibitors in the show hall, instead of just to one or two.
Pam Delabar.
I think we need to take these two different rules and vote on them separately. As a judge, I will often have a clerk announce the numbers if it looks like I need to get ahead of another ring, especially. But the clerk I have also given numbers to, and I said, to make sure that people are going to show up for the final. I had 3 void wins at the international show of all places. I would have loved if somebody had come up and said to my clerk, am I in the final or whatever? It's really a horrible feeling to have to void a cat's win. I had to do one last week as well. I would just like to, be proactive when I'm putting out my numbers. And if my clerk's seen talking to somebody, give us a break. Don't assume that the exhibitor came to my clerk, because my clerk may be talking to the exhibitor at my bequest. As far as 21.12, I still have some concerns. In this day and age, when we are having so many shows that are one day 6-ring shows, the finals, it's a big trouble sometimes to be able to get your final done when you have to go on to another large class. So we need to either have better education of our exhibitors, or we need to be a bit more, I'm trying to say this in a nice way. We need to educate our exhibitors more, or we need to give a little bit more latitude to our judges to be able to do our jobs.
Kathy Calhoun.
To combine what one of the things that Mary Lee said and what I said earlier in 14.06, exhibitors will wait until numbers are called or posted in a ring to learn if their cat is in the final. Maybe there should be an additional sentence that says something to the effect that, or a tip or trick for judges and clerks. If in fact you are running close to the end of the announced when the show is supposed to end, you should, or you must, however we would want to word that, post or call the final once it is prepared. And that would give all those who are in the room the same visibility as that person walking up. Because if the person walking up is asking about if they're in a final, the final must have been prepared to give the answer. So post the final.
Kathy Calhoun.
That was me.
Kathy Dunn.
Thank you. In hearing this discussion, I still want to iterate. This is a huge perception issue that a privileged few exhibitors are given the opportunity to ask if their cat is in a final and have their rosettes hung before the final is ever called so that they can make their travel arrangements. I don't see why this is a huge problem to at least have the cats. I'm okay with calling the final so that they know a cat is in the final or not in the final. But if we are going to continue to give these people the opportunity to have their finals done, quote unquote, privately before the main part of the final is called and awarded, then I'm just going to say what Pam Delabar didn't say, which is change the rule and let the judges hang on empty cages. And
no
issue.
No.
Because this is a big perception issue, and Pam Mosier's right. The exhibitors are talking about it. They may not be talking about it in Europe or Japan or the ID divisions, but they are certainly talking about it in regions 1 through 7. And we are just trying to, eliminate a little bit of it by asking for this clarification in the rules. So I hope that the judges understand we are not going after you guys. We understand that there are scheduling issues, that cats need to be in other rings for judging. We understand that you might not get every cat in whatever part of the final you're calling because they are in a judging ring. But at least when the cat does show up, you can hang the ribbon immediately and you can move on. That's where we're trying to go with this. So I hope that you see that and understand it. We're not trying to hinder the judges or a judging schedule. Yes, it happens more after show hours, the posted show hours, but I have seen it happen during the day, earlier in the day. They just think they're entitled to know if their cat's in the final, and it doesn't matter. So that's where we're coming from with this.
Okay. Thank you, Kathy Dunham. I'm going to ask the group if you have something additional to add that hasn't already been spoken, please do. If you don't have anything additional to add, we've got to move along on this. I need to ask the board, does anybody object to having Vicky make a comment on this? This is not her purview. She's not on the show rules committee that I know of. Does anybody object to a comment from Vicky? And I just want to go on record. We're not setting a precedent here by doing it, because we don't want additional comments coming in from off the board. Okay, Vicky.
Representing the judges, basically, my problem with this is that oftentimes there's one or two judges that are scheduled to have their finals in the first part of the day. And they oftentimes delay that final because cats are being judged in other rings. And then you end up with a backlog of 4 finals at the end of the day. That's not fair to the exhibitors either, because I rarely see a show where all the finals are done by that advertised closing time. You know, if this is going to be the case, I think I would advise all the judges to never delay their final, even if they end up stepping on other rings that are judging the cats. They'll have to wait and let the cats trickle in, and that stops the other rings from judging. But it also allows those exhibitors to get those finals in before they all end up backed up at the end of the day.
Thank you, Vicky. Kenny? You're on mute, Kenny.
Oops, I apologize for that. Just to sum it all up, the rules that are being printed here are unfair, not only to the exhibitors, but also the judges. If we're supposed, I've always acquiesced to other judges in class judging, and many judges do the same. This rule would really mess up with the flow of the show. You know, I just don't like seeing rules that place an imposition on any particular group, and this certainly does for both the judges and the exhibitors. I'm out.
Ed, do you want to comment on either one of these? Address any questions?
No, I think the discussion has exposed the pluses and minuses. I don't have anything to add.
Okay, what I'm going to do here is I am going to separate these. We're going to vote on the 14.06 and the 14.07 because I do have a question on 21.12. And I'm just going to call for the votes. If you're in favor of 14.06 and 14.07, which is just the number change on 14.07, raise your hand. Kathy Calhoun, Pam Mosier, Carol Krasnowski, Kathy Dunham, Paula Noble, Russell Webb, Yukiko Hayata, John Klilla, Ann Mathis. Lower your hand. If you're opposed, raise your hand. Rachel Anger, Daryl Newkirk, Pam Delabar, Marilee Griswold, Kenny Curley, Paulie Hootenanemy, Mike Shelton. Lower your hand. If you're an abstention, raise your hand. Rachel Anger? No, you're shaking your head no. Okay, no abstentions. Rachel?
That is 9 yes, 7 no, 0 abstentions.
Okay, motion passes. Okay, on to 12.12. I go back to Daryl's comment, and Daryl, I think you were either the second or third speaker on this a bunch of minutes ago. My question is on the second sentence. It states, all cats must be called up to the ring and present in the final. That seems like a huge hurdle and a potential problem, as Daryl stated, that how can that be accomplished? And are we going to open up judges for issues down the road because they can't get all the cats in the final and present? So I'm just questioning that. Ed, maybe you can clarify it. Carol, maybe you can clarify it. Carol?
Yes, I think we have addressed that, because if you read the rest of the sentence, it says, as the judging schedule and other rings permits. And also the next sentence says a judge may award a placement out of order and release the cat once the award is made. So I believe we've already addressed this. Let's hear what Ed has to say on the matter.
Yeah, I think the language you were quoting, Rich, was from probably the original draft of this rule before Mike's amendment.
Good point. You're right. Let me go back to, I gotta open up the, okay.
What Aileen is showing on the screen right now is the current version of this proposal.
Okay, then it does address my question, I believe. Daryl?
Well, I think the part that says all cats called for a final in full or in part shall be present in the ring as the judging schedule and other rings permit. Well, the first part says the cat has to be there, and then you make an exception here for cats being in another ring. So it's one part says one thing, the latter part says another. I just don't. All this does, it makes it more confusing. And then you're going to subject the judges, if they start the final without all the cats being in cages in your final, then somebody's going to bitch and complain and write a complaint. So I don't support this the way it's written.
Okay, Carol?
We could possibly address that by just eliminating the word all and start the sentence with cats called for a final in full or in part shall be present in the ring as the judging schedule and other rings permits. So that would alleviate the problem of having all of them there at the same time.
Mike, you proposed the change. Any comments? Mike, you're on mute.
Sorry, I had a pop-up come up and cover up my mute button. Yeah, I mean, I proposed this change because my original concern was having too many cats than you could actually fit in a final at one time. Obviously, judging schedule conflicts are another issue. I think either Carol's suggestion or going back to should instead of shall might alleviate that problem.
Okay, Matthew?
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, recently in Asia, especially these final few months, you can imagine the counts are huge. We're talking about 150 plus cat. As Palm said, in one single class, Devon Resh could be more than 50. Ragdoll, another 40, right? So if the way it's written, and then after this dilution, as we just heard, it's actually exactly the same as what we have now. The judges call for cats. We hope for them to arrive, but in reality, it's already 10 p.m. in the evening, and there's still 5 finals going on. We're not going to get all the cats. The cats getting very tired. It becomes extremely difficult and frustrating for exhibitors and also for the cats to sit at 10 p.m. and wait 20 minutes just because one other cat is being in final or judging in a ring. Since after the dilution, removing the or, and also as the judging schedule in other rings permit, I think this revision doesn't add anything to what we have now. So I don't have a voting power here, but I'm just voicing this actually create a window for people to complain. And we already know the competition is getting very fierce, and people love to find a way to complain to the judges and other exhibitors. So I think this could open a can of worms that we don't have the resources to deal with. Thank you.
Ed?
I appreciate everyone's parsing of the individual sentences of this particular rule. But I would urge you to consider the rule as a single entity. The rule is being written to deal with the early private or special finals situation, not to change any other part of the existing process of how finals are conducted. So that's
okay.
it.
Pam Delabar?
I could personally support this if the rule ended after the first sentence. No judge shall award any early, private, or special final for any exhibitor because their schedule requires them to leave the show before the final would take place, period. End of show rule. We all know what we have to do. Those of you who are not in the situation of trying to do finals, we had top 15 finals in both kittens and adults last week. That's top 5 short hair champions, top 5 long hair champions, top 5 all breed champions, of course, made of the short hair and long hair, and then top 15. In kittens, it was top 15. Well, hopefully you've got enough cages to deal with this, but the schedules are a bitch, and there's no other way to put it. Now, I'm going to make one comment. Back in the day, back around 2006, I was concerned of the way that we conducted our competitions and have always been looking for alternative ways to do things. These past few rules that we've addressed, I look as symptoms of a system that needs help and is broken. We need to come up with better ways, other ways, more fair ways to do our competitions. This is my idea. This is how I feel, but this is how I view of what we've been doing in all our show rules. But I could support 21.12 and 13 if it ended, right with addressing the problem that wants to be addressed. Let us judges figure out how in the hell we're going to do some of our work and get the job done that we're being paid the $1.25 per entry to do, but address the problem directly and don't add in all the other stuff. That's it.
Pam?
Yes?
Before I call on Daryl, would you support the motion if the third sentence was eliminated and all the other 3 remained?
Yes. I would support if finals may be called in multiple parts when necessary to comply with show rules. And then get rid of the rest.
What about the last sentence? Are you okay with the last sentence?
Yeah, I'm okay with the last sentence. That's what we do. But we do not want to hang on empty cages.
Okay, I just want to know.
That's not, that is not an option in my case.
Okay, thank you, Pam. Daryl?
I like Pam's suggestion. I think taking out everything from all cats down, because we're not required to award placements 10 up through best. That's not in the rules anywhere. I can pull best cat out and give it if I want to. So to me, that whole last part that Alan has highlighted right now should be gone. I don't know that finals may be called in multiple parts when necessary to comply with show rules. Why does that need to be in there? It's just extra wording. If you got a bunch of males, you're not going to be able to bring all the cats up in one spot. It goes without saying that you're going to have to bring up cats in multiple parts. And I don't know why that even has to be in there.
Okay, Kathy Dunham, you're gonna be the last one on this, then I'm gonna ask Carol what she's gonna do with this motion.
Okay, I am in support of taking out what's highlighted. So if Carol and Kenny are okay with that, then as the presenter, as the sponsor of this, I am okay with it too.
Okay, Carol, I'm not gonna instruct you what to do. I'm gonna ask you, what do you want to do with this motion?
I will revise I would make a motion to revise this rule to eliminate everything after the first sentence.
Kenny, are you in agreement?
I'll second.
Okay. Carol, does Eileen have that correct?
Yes.
So your motion is to remove everything from the second sentence on, correct?
That is correct.
And Kenny, you agreed, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to call for the vote. If you're in favor, please raise your hand. Kathy Dunham, Pam Delabar, Kenny, Paula, Kathy Calhoun, Holly, Carol, Russell, Daryl, Yokiko, Pam Mosier, John, Ann, Marilee, Mike. Please lower your hands. If you're opposed, raise your hand. Ann, are you opposed? Okay. If you're an abstention, raise your hand. Okay, Rachel?
I was a yes on that as well. Sorry, I didn't get my hand up. So
okay,
that's
thank you, Rachel.
16 yes, 0 no, 0 abstentions.
Okay, motion passes unanimously. Okay. Number 10.
Number 10, amends Article 36 to provide that the region of residence for a cat, kitten, or household pet is the site of the primary residence of the owner or any of the co-owners. It adds the word primary, and this is parallels what was done by the delegation in determining the residence for a club secretary.
Okay, Daryl?
Please define what a primary residence is.
Ed?
Yeah, a primary residence is normally the state in which you have your driver's license, you claim maybe certain tax preferences that are available only to primary residents. In Florida, it's a homestead exemption. It has a legal meaning that I am not clearly articulating in full right now.
Okay. Paula, do you have a comment?
As soon as I can unmute myself. I just felt that there are not many out there that have taken advantage of this, but I know of a couple. We've had one who has residences in both Region 7 and Region 3. And she's very active in Region 7, but usually claims she's getting an advantage. She's been given permission to do this by the board. And I don't think that anybody should have an unfair advantage over all the rest of the exhibitors.
Okay. Kenny?
I don't really, I mean, I understand where Paul is coming from. People do have multiple residences. and wherever they're most active, where their cats or where they choose to show, I think should have precedence over where they may or may not have their primary residence. But as far as getting an advantage, I don't really see one. They can choose to go to any show that they absolutely want. So I really can't support this the way it's being written, because the word primary, as Daryl said, is so unclear. I have two primary residences. They happen to be in the same region, but I tend to choose for tax purposes and what have you, where my primary residence tends to be. So I can't support the way this is written.
Kathy Dunham, you're also a sponsor of this. You have comments?
Yeah, what we're trying to get at again is just having exhibitors pick where they're going to have their awards scored based on where they have their driver's license, where they have their, tax exemptions on their properties. We're not trying to hinder anybody from showing in any region or city that they choose to do so. We do that every weekend. We go all over the country.
Right.
But we need to have some clarity on where their cats are really being scored. Because if the property that they own in another region is really more of a vacation property, then yeah, I mean, we just need the clarification. It's not that we're trying to, stop exhibitors from getting awards or anything like that. We just need some clarity in how the residences are determined for their awards.
Rachel?
Thank you. So I agree that we need clarity, but adding the word primary doesn't provide clarity. One example is listed here. We have another example where an exhibitor has claimed a residence for 25 years. That's now being challenged. And, under this exact same basis here. So if we can come up with a clear definition of what the word primary is and how it applies to our regional assignment, I would be completely in favor of this. But when you have a historical presence in a region for a quarter of a century, I don't think the word primary is going to clarify a situation like that. Now, when you have forum shopping, as is in the rationale here, we don't want forum shopping. But here again, primary can be challenged. If I own a property in Florida, one in Michigan, one in Wisconsin, I pay taxes anywhere, but my primary residence is in Florida, so that's where I would pick. But someone else might want more flexibility to region shop. That's what I'd like to stop. But I don't think this is a one-size-fits-all solution. Thank you.
Pam Delabar?
Back in the day when I was regional director of Region 3, we had this very same problem between Region 7 and Region 3. And I can tell you the word primary is used in our animal welfare in our cattery standard. Primary residence, the primary enclosure where a person or a cat resides is where it spends the majority of its time. And that is the simple statement of what primary residence would be. I actually have two addresses, but I can tell you my primary residence is in Region 9 in Finland, but I have voting rights in Texas with an address in Texas. So yes, there are some ways to massage this around, but the primary residence is where you spend the most of your, where you lay your head down the most of the time. And that is how it has been defined in the past, and how we use primary in the animal welfare world.
Daryl?
Primary address is listed in our bylaws under the Secretary of Record for a club. So there are 2 or 3 other places where in the show rules where it just lists residents. When the primary or when the secretary submits the annual membership of club members, it just asks for addresses. It doesn't say primary address, it just says addresses. My second thing that I want to comment, what in the world is, it is not necessary that the region listed in the catalog match the address contained in the official show records. What does that mean?
I believe it means that when you submit your entry for the show, the address that you list as the owner's address does not have to match the regional assignment that you assign to the cat. So if you were at your vacation home and you wanted, in the days when confirmations came by mail, you could have the confirmation sent to your vacation home, even though the cat is assigned to the region of your permanent home. That's an existing part of the show rule that's been there forever. We can remove it, but that would be an additional change.
Okay, before you two further discuss, Aline, how is central office treating that sentence?
Well, we do what it says, but it's, for instance, it could be a co-owner situation. So you have 2 co-owners, one's in Region 3, one's in Region 7. They want to claim Region 7, but the person who entered it is in Region 3. So the address in the official show records is not going to match the region. That's just another instance. It could be an agent that's entering the cat. There's all types of instances where this applies.
Okay, is that what your comment was going to be?
Yes.
Okay. Daryl, thank you for pointing out the bylaws section on regional assignment. For those that are listening, that is in section 4. Ed, I see you have your hand up. Do you want to give definition of primary residence? If you don't have it, I have it.
What I was going to point out, tied in with what Daryl said, I know there's some question about not defining primary, but I just want to point out that this board sponsored the amendment to Article 3, Section 4 at last summer's board meeting to replace mailing address of the secretary with the primary residence address of the secretary. We tried to mirror that primary residence language in this show rule.
Okay, anything further on that, Ed?
Nope, that's it for me.
Daryl?
I just want to comment that there is nothing in the bylaws about cats being assigned to any region. Cats are assigned to a region based on show rules, not on the bylaws. The bylaws pertain to club membership, not breeders and not cats.
Correct.
That's correct. Definition of primary through Google: a primary residence is legally considered to be the principal or main home you live in for most of the year. You can only have one primary residence at a time. This is usually the address listed on your driver's license, tax returns, and other official government documents. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, I'm going to call for the vote. If you are in favor, please raise your hand. Pam Delabar, Pam Mosier, Paula, Kathy Dunham, Carol, Yokiko, Mike, Kathy Calhoun, Ann. Please lower your hand. If you're opposed, raise your hand. Kenny, John, Russell, Marilee, Paula, Daryl, Rachel. Please lower your hand. If you're an abstention, raise your hand. Rachel, I see no abstentions.
Thank you for the no votes. You said Paula, I think you meant Paulie. So
Did I?
That'll be my.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. So I have 9 yes, 7 no, 0 abstentions.
Okay, motion passes. Okay, Ed, number 11.
Number 11 amends 30.01 regarding the treatment of male cats whose color combinations occur only by virtue of a genetic anomaly. This was language that Vicki and I suggested.
Okay, does anybody have any questions or comments for Vicki or Russell on this? Any objections? Okay, seeing no objections, motion passes unanimously. Okay, Ed, number 12.
Number 12, last one, is in addition to the addendum for the next show season, extending the reduction of brand points for cats in the International Division and Ukraine, and adding a reduction for Russia west of the Ural Mountains for the 2024-25 show season.
Okay, does anybody have any questions or comments for Kathy Calhoun or Pam Delabar? Does anybody have any objections? Okay, seeing no objections, motion passes unanimously. Okay, Ed, do you have any additional?
That's it for show rules, although I noticed that one of the motions, the online motions, affected a show rule, so I'll work with Aileen to make sure it's added to the addendum for the remainder of this year.
Okay. And when we get to Vicki's report, I think she made recommendation working with show rules on something. So we'll have to pay close attention to that. I don't know if she wants it for the upcoming year or not.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Ed. You are still up.
I'm still up.
Pam Delabar. Hang on one second, Pam.
I think we just saw why it's necessary that we try to track all show rules at the October meeting, because we just took up, instead of 20 minutes, we just took up an hour and a half. So I really think that we need to get back on track in making sure that we try to get everything done with show rules at our normal show rule meeting in October. That's all.
I agree.
I would love that.
I'm sure Ed does too.
Yeah. A number of the changes that came today were only sent to the show rules committee in the last 2 weeks.
Oh, that's not good.
They were super late.
Yeah, that's not good. Okay.
Okay.
Ed, do International Cat Show and Expo?
Yes. So we've conducted the club balloting for the selection of judges for the 2024 International. 310 clubs voted this year compared to 317 in 2023. I'm going to read the list of judges who were selected in alphabetical order. Larry Atkinson, Rachel Anger, Kathy Black, Kathy Calhoun, Kenny Curley, Pam Delabar, Marilee Griswold, Ann Mathis, Melanie Morgan, Daryl Newkirk, Victoria Nye, Brian Pearson, Teresa Sweeney, Peter von Wantingam, Gary Veach, and Russell Webb. The alternates in order will be Jackie Bennett and then Diana Dorenberg. We have gone through and assigned the judges to the gold and the white show. And in the gold show, Larry Atkinson, Kenny Curley, Marilee Griswold, Teresa Sweeney, and Peter von Wantingam will be doing Albrecht. Kathy Black, Kathy Calhoun, and Ann Mathis will be doing specialty. In the white show, Rachel Anger, Melanie Morgan, Daryl Newkirk, Vicky Nye, and Russell Webb will be doing Albrecht. Pam Delabar, Brian Pearson, and Gary Veach will be doing specialty. The judges who will be doing the best in show judging, and remember this year we are bringing up the best long hair and short hair cat or kitten in each category from each show. So those four will be, the four kittens will be judged to have the best kitten, the same for championship and premiership. Those will be judged by Marilee Griswold, Rachel Anger, and Daryl Newkirk. And then Larry Atkinson will choose best of the best from the best kitten, best championship cat, best premiership cat. Congratulations to all of the judges who have been selected. And I believe Rachel is ready to hit the trigger on the invitation for judges to do the show. So.
Okay, Eileen, will you please send Pam Delabar all
Yes.
that information so she can
Yes.
get it for her notes?
Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
You're welcome, Pam.
That's it for me.
Does anybody have any questions for Ed? Daryl?
Can you tell me the specialty judges in the white show? I got Veach. I didn't get the other two.
The white show, Pam Delabar, Brian Pearson, Gary Veach.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Kathy Calhoun?
And I didn't get it all, but how many board members will be at the international show judging?
Ed, can you tell?
Hang on, let me just go back to my alpha list.
You know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, we know.
But Kathy, we don't know. We have elections coming up.
I just want to know, we may make that decision before the election, but I just want to know the answer to the question.
So you want to know how many of the current board members?
How many of the current board members?
Okay, okay.
Yeah, that's how we can base it on if we need to move forward before June. And I think we do on what we're going to do in October.
My count is correct. 8 of the judges are board members.
Okay, thank you.
And Mathis, it looked like you were counting also. Is that about right?
Yeah, that's what I want.
Okay, she's shaking her head yes. Any further questions for Ed? Ed, great job. Thank you. Congratulations to all the judges selected. I want to also thank all the clubs for the 310 clubs that submitted votes. It is 10:32. We are going to take a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back here at 10:42. Meeting is called back to order. Before we move on to the next item, I need clarification from Ed Raymond. I received a phone call while on break, and I believe I stated this during the discussion, but I just want clarification. OCP rings from club request through the end of this year still need board approval or executive committee approval, correct?
Correct. They are still experimental until the beginning of the new show season.
Okay, just wanted to make sure we had that and that was confirmed. Thank you. All right, we are going to move into central office. Eileen.
Excuse me, okay. My report, I have no board action items. It's mostly, it's informational. So I can you know, if anybody has any comments or questions, I just gave a status on future annual meetings and where we stand with contracting and site visits. So if anybody has any questions on that.
Does anybody have any questions for Eileen? Okay, Eileen.
The region division award reports, I just wanted to provide a tentative schedule for the end of the show, season scoring, and the award report distribution. And please, you know, here are the dates that you can expect things, but please note that it's all predicated on when we receive all of the show results. I know that something is coming up, I guess it's for the experimental formats, an OCP ring on the last weekend of the show season. It is imperative that we get any show, well, all shows, timely, but certainly any with an OCP ring, because we still are doing that somewhat manually. So we really, so as not to delay something, we really need those show results, especially for the OCP rings.
Hey, hang on, Eileen. Kathy Calhoun's got her hand up. Kathy?
Yes. I just wanted to say that the International Division Committee will make every effort to do everything that we can possibly do to make that happen.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, continue.
Let's see. So if there's any questions on that, it doesn't appear that there are.
No questions.
Okay. Just wanted to give a little bit more information regarding the website update. I touched on it before in a note to the board. We really are getting very close. Kathy Durdick is starting to move some of the current content, new content, specifically the breed pages, all of the breed pages, that's all brand new pictures, is being added to the website. Normally, you don't have two different entities working on a website while it's still in the development and programming stage. However, that is happening because we are delayed and we don't want to delay things any further. So we are saying that the website will debut by May 1st. It could be a little bit earlier, but we did not want to give a date at this point that we wouldn't meet. So it will be debuted by May 1st.
Kathy Calhoun has a question.
Excuse me. I just wondered, do you have a schedule of tasks that have to be done, laid out to get to that May 1st or earlier date? And the only reason I ask, I'm not trying to create work for anybody, but having come from the project manager world, that's the only way we could figure out what we needed to do, how much time it was going to take, and where the finish line was. So we would know if we delayed on something, we'd have to make it up some sort of way. And it was very helpful to have that. I didn't know if you had that sort of thing that you could share.
Yes. I don't have it handy at the moment myself. We have had it within the website marketing committee meetings. Desiree has that schedule. I'd have to go find it. I don't have it handy right at the moment, but it's only a matter of, it might be 5 dates, because we have, when we would have access to the website or to do content, when it would be fully functioning for the testers to test. We plan on giving the team about 10 days to 2 weeks to test the website, get feedback from them, and provide adequate time for Atomic Wash to make any tweaks, changes, corrections, because we know that will exist, and then be able to release the website. So those are the 5 things that we have in that timeline. I just don't recall off the top of my head what those dates are. But we are sticking to those. You know, February 1st was the date that Kathy would have access to the website to start moving content. I think March 1st might be when we expect to have it all done and ready for testers to go. So that's, yeah, we do have a timeline that we're following.
Kathy, did you have another question or comment for Aline?
I do. Have you identified the team of testers and who from the international division will be participating?
We have identified the team of testers, and I believe Desiree or someone on the marketing team was going to reach out to you and also I believe we already have somebody for Region 9, but we were going to reach out to Pam Delbar and or you, Kathy, to get testers from those respective areas. And if that hasn't been done yet, I'll be sure it is, because we just talked about that on Thursday. Okay, but yes, because we definitely want somebody from the ID China and Region 9 and Region 8.
Okay, very good. I don't see any other hands up. Continue.
Okay, wait a minute, I'm just making a note. Okay. Thank you. We reported earlier, this is a marketing thing. We reported earlier about the licensed show logos and the member club logos and the region division logos. We're not doing any of that. We will, that's just been canceled. We may continue to look at the region division logo project, but it's on an indefinite hold. So I just wanted to make sure you're all aware of that. An abbreviated selection of the CFA logos in the standard file types will be back on the website soon if they're not already there. And then, of course, other file types are available if needed. You know, some people need the original Adobe Illustrator, they need the vector file, you know, various things, or a reverse or a transparent. So we'll have most of the ones up there that people would use.
Does anybody have any questions or comments on logos? Aline, my comment is good decision and thank you.
You're welcome. The 2024 yearbook is out. We received the printed version in the office Wednesday. They were all shipped by this past, well, actually it's been a week now. They were shipped by the end of a week ago. So we will be looking at the shipping to advertisers for next year, especially for our advertisers outside of the US, because the shipping is very costly. And with advertisers, they receive a free yearbook. But in addition to that, there are some areas, for instance, where Pam lives, where they have this value added tax added on. So we will be proactive in determining how those advertisers would like to receive their printed yearbook in the future.
Any questions or comments on the yearbook? Kenny?
Just wanted to thank the yearbook committee for doing a fantastic job. I got mine yesterday. It's fabulous. Thank you.
Great, thank you. They'll be glad to hear that.
And I agree with Kenny's comments. A special thank you to Shelley for all her hard work and what she does, because she spends a great deal of time all throughout the year on that. And I had the opportunity 2 or 3 nights ago to go through every single page, and it's a beautiful book, and there's more pages than the previous year. So great job to all of you.
Okay. Thank you. I'll pass that along in case she's not listening. And that's all I have.
Does anybody have any other questions or comments for Aline? Okay, Aline, thank you.
Thank you.
IT report, James and Tim Schreck. Is Tim available, or is James doing this?
James is doing this. Oh, well, I have a Tim in the audience, but I don't know that that's Tim Schreck.
I don't think he was planning on it.
He was not planning on it, James?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, go ahead then, James.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Rich. As in the report, you'll see we continue to see some delays despite their developers' promise for a year-end completion. Scoring has become very, much harder to decipher than they planned. That's kind of the name of the game with this. Everything that they think should go smoothly turns out to be, more confusing or difficult to understand. We are undergoing internal testing right now for both the administrative and the ECAT side. A lot has been completed, and we are doing testing, completing bug reports and such. We will begin external testing, hopefully within the next week or two. Get some people outside of central office to look at ECAT and experience the new screens and the new processes and see how things are going to work out. So we're excited about that to get some external feedback. I do have some stuff we'll cover in a brief executive session just to kind of go over the timeline of the project. And I hope to also show you some screenshots of the ECAT screens of what people are going to see. We're not ready for the public to quite see those yet, but they're 99% complete. So if anybody has any questions.
Any questions or comments on the ECAT version 2.0? Kathy Calhoun? You're on mute, Kathy.
Sorry. So sorry about that. James, you will be sharing your timeline with the board?
Yeah. Kind of, it feels like this thing's been going on for 5 years, but I laid out a timeline of when we started everything, what has happened at each step, and kind of get everybody on the same page.
But you have a timeline to get you to a finish date.
Yeah, I mean, we do talk about the timeline, of proposed finish, but where this began, when things were approved, when initial estimates were laid out, so right from the beginning to where we plan to be.
Okay, so before we go any further, James, let's clarify for the record, because you said it feels like 5 years. It hasn't been 5 years. When did this project start?
Oh boy, I just had my document up. It was February 2022 meeting that we brought up the idea of doing a revised system.
And then when did it begin?
It began, the proposed estimated actual start of the project was going to be August of 2020. Let's see, I got my notes here.
2022.
August of 2022.
Yeah, with a completion of August of 2023. So it was estimated to take 12.
All right, I just wanted to make sure that information was in open discussion for the record. Okay. James, did you want to say anything on the genetics?
Just that there's been no meaningful progress since the last meeting, just because we've been 100% focused on working with the developers to get the ECAT wrapped up. We need to get that wrapped up so we can really concentrate, because genetics takes our full focus. The programmers can't flip it back and forth between ECAT and the genetics if we need them, because it just delays things even more.
Okay, so the primary focus right now is to complete ECATs.
Yeah, and then 100% of our focus will be genetics.
Okay, Kathy Calhoun.
Just to want to ensure the OCP ring scoring will be automated by May 1?
Yes. Yeah, we're incorporating that in.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for James? Seeing no questions, thank you, James.
Thank you.
Treasurer's report, Kathy Calhoun.
Okay, I'm not going to drain this. I'm sure you've all reviewed it and embraced it. The total registrations, income related to that was $537,000 compared to 690 prior year. The next chart talks about other items, other key indicators around performance. I'll let you peruse that at your convenience. The total ordinary income contribution was $1,185,000. And then there's a bit about publications, the central office, and CFA programs. The annual meeting and the international show, these are, there's still some outstanding expenses to add, but the CFA annual cost $100,000, which is not unusual. That we know that is not intended to be an income producing event. That's a celebration of the year and the hard work that all the exhibitors, judges, board members contributed through the past season. So the CFA International, we're showing it right now about a $2,000 loss. But as I said, there's more detail that will be added to the P&L. The detailed reports will be posted in File Vista. Our net income at this point, we are at a loss, 181,000. I think this only contributes to the importance of the projects that we will be talking about on Sunday.
Okay, Pam Delabar.
My statistical research mind is trying to wrap my head around a minus 499.73% change.
Don't try.
Oh, okay.
It is the number that it's the fact that your difference between the positive and the negative quadruples. It's 45,045, and that's how it's calculated. But if you were to roughly say $40,000 worth at this point in time in last season, we are actually $227,000 behind that, which is the 490.
I see. Thanks.
But at some point, it just to be too much. The story is the same.
Pam, most of the time percentages are very confusing for people. They're just included in there more so for those who want to know the differences in percentages, but the dollars are what's important. And on that last page, net operating income down 300,000 compared to last year was a positive nearly 101. Net operating income is what we need to focus on in order to continue to stay in business and be healthy about staying in business. And I just want to go on record, CFA has plenty enough money. We're not going out of business. We're not selling central office or anything like that. There's plenty enough money for CFA. We can ride the ups and downs. We had a nice ride there for many years, and we're just trying to get through some of the challenges. On a good note, positive note, our long-term investments, they struggled. And as you remember, last year, long-term investments showed a negative. Well, the last 2 or 3 months, things have changed for the good. So we ride that out. We have not touched those long-term investments. I can't remember when or if we touched those long-term investments. So things are looking up on that side, but we got to continue to work on our top line sales and our operating expenses. Daryl?
Can you share with us where that money is invested? I'm not talking about a physical place. I'm talking about CDs, stock market.
Yeah, it's a combination of stocks and bonds through an investment company. They've handled the portfolio for the past, Ed and Kathy maybe help me here, 6 years, 7 years?
Yeah.
Somewhere around that,
I think
6 or 7 years.
Yes. And they do a very good job.
So can you share with me a percentage of return?
If you I will put together, I'll have our broker put together a package for the board and we'll get it off to you. I can give you I can give you the year-to-date return with the percentage of return. I'll do that during the lunch break and I'll report on that.
Okay, thank you. I look forward to that.
Okay. Kathy?
Yeah, and just to reiterate what Rich just said, the net operating income is it's the most controllable piece that we have. And it's simple. It's the income less expenses. So it's simple. Total other comes from investments and those sorts of things. So as Rich said, we are not in any dire straits, but we do need to pay attention and we need to do everything that we can possibly do to increase that top line.
And I think it's also important to note that we are continuing to support all our programs as the board had budgeted. We also had additional programs and requests come throughout the year that we supported. So it's important to note that. And when we do that, it does impact our net operating income and our net income. So we'll keep that in mind when we go through the exercise at the end of March and April, when we have to work on the 2024-2025 annual budget. Kathy, do you have anything else?
Yeah, and just to add a note on that, any programs that were included that came through the year were approved by the board.
Correct. Anybody have any questions for Kathy? Okay, Kathy, you're going to continue, please.
Yes.
Diversity and inclusion.
Yes. Pulling it up. Okay. Allow me to read this report to the board. It won't take very long. This is a statement to the CFA Board of Directors and Officers. The Diversity and Inclusion Committee plays a crucial role in supporting CFA's journey towards becoming a more inclusive and culturally competent organization. It is important for all board members and standing committees to fully understand the valuable assistance that the Diversity and Inclusion Committee can provide. The committee has identified opportunities where its insights could have positively influenced outcomes. For instance, in a situation involving a breeder exhibitor who identifies as transgender, questions about changing the breeder owner's name could have been addressed more easily with the committee's expertise in LGBTQ+ cultural competence. Similarly, issues related to providing a sign language interpreter at the 2023 International Show could have benefited from an early consultation with the Diversity and Inclusion Committee. A final issue where the Diversity and Inclusion Committee could be of some assistance is in the integration of the diverse geographic areas of CFA. The Diversity and Inclusion Committee can serve in a proactive role by bringing related issues to the committee's attention at the onset. The board and standing committees can tap into this valuable resource. The goal is to encourage a collaborative approach and shift in mindset, prompting everyone to ask, does this issue/decision/policy have a potential impact on our interest in diversity and inclusion as an organization? If the answer is yes, or even potentially yes, involving the Diversity and Inclusion Committee early on ensures that CFA can achieve its objective of cultural competence and inclusion. It is critical that the Diversity and Inclusion Committee be brought into the decision-making process early on. A pre-read of committee's reports and recommendations is far too late to fully benefit the committee and CFA as an inclusive organization. So we have a motion. All CFA committee chairs, co-chairs, board members, and officers to reach out to the Diversity and Inclusion team through the Diversity and Inclusion Committee chair when considering decisions, policies, procedures, and recommendations that potentially impact CFA's commitment to diversity and inclusion as an organization. The Diversity and Inclusion chair will in turn review with the Diversity and Inclusion Committee and a committee member will be assigned to assist.
Okay, Pam Delabar.
Kathy, this is rather directive in nature. What is the impact on committees not coming to the D&I committee when dealing with things that would far-reaching implications on what the D&I should be looking at, especially in areas where they know nothing about it. And I'm talking about animal welfare. Now, I'm saying not knowing about it, but knowing about the particulars dealing with animal welfare. And when dealing with things that have absolutely no pertinence to the D&I subject matter.
May I answer that?
Go ahead.
Please.
I think in the motion it said items that potentially impact CFA's commitment to diversity and inclusion as an organization. If you feel that what you may be doing in animal welfare touches that point, then yes, the committee is a resource. The committee is not trying to control what other committees do, but there are resources out there that we are not using. So the first decision would be, as you gave the example of animal welfare, is that potentially impacting CFA's commitment to diversity and inclusion? If you ask that question and your answer is yes, then yes, reach out. All the committee is asking is for a seat at the table so that we can understand what is going on and be of service. That's it.
Daryl.
Okay, so I have a problem with this, Kathy. I'm sorry, but you're asking the board to ratify you be the co-chair of every committee.
No, I am not.
Okay, well that's the way it's listed. It says all CFA committee chairs, co-chairs, and board members and officers. So you are asking that everything that is decided by a committee that's supposed to be autonomous. Rich appoints every June on Sunday morning. He suggests all the committee chairs for the future year. And by you guys trying to put your finger on everything that these committees do, to me, is not right. Committees should be autonomous. When we get the committee reports, your committee can take all those reports and review them at that point in time. And I'm not sure why you need to be in the decision-making process before it even gets finalized and presented to the board. So I can't support it, Kathy. I'm sorry.
So, Daryl, Rich, can I answer Daryl's?
Go ahead.
I see no place in this motion where it says that I want to be the co-chair of every committee. What it says is that when considering decisions that involve policies, procedures, and recommendations that potentially impact our diversity and inclusion position as an organization, reach out. Okay, let's say this example. Typically when a committee is doing something and it is going to be an incremental cost to CFA, they include me in the discussion. I don't read it for the first time, typically at the board table or the pre-reads. They reach out and say, where are we? Can we spend this? What's included in our budget? Those sorts of questions. As a resource, I'm not asking to be on the committee. The board would make a decision, but I'm a resource. All we are asking to be is a resource.
Okay. Kenny?
Totally agree with Daryl. Created this DEI committee. The board should have input. I think it's too much power under one committee where we have to run everything through one source. before we can have an actual impact upon CFA. That's why we have board meetings. So I'm not going to support this. It's just too much power on one committee's hands.
Rachel?
Thank you. I agree with what Kenny says. I think this is covered with our board of directors oath, where we all take an oath to work together. I think as a request, this is an excellent request to make, but to make it a mandate, I just can't agree with it. I bend over backwards to share everything I can with the various committees when they're involved. You've all gotten reminders after board meetings of to-do items in an email and such. So I think there's already that effort. Just bringing it forward here, Kathy, I believe has brought it to everyone's attention that it needs to be done. And as a mandate, those that have said it's a bit strong arm, I would agree with. And I would do anything I can to help this committee, particularly in the example that was cited about one of our customers having exhibit difficulty with a name change. This is what I did in my professional life, was name changes for transgender people. So I think I don't know anything about that. So you know, you kind of wonder how can I be proactive and help here when there's no knowledge of it until now when the problem comes forward. But that is an example. I see that there are issues that need to be dealt with. I just think this is too much, and we should all be doing this on every opportunity as it is. Thank you.
Rich, may I speak?
Kathy, I'll give you closing, okay? So we're going to do Daryl, then Pam, and then Kathy, you got closing on this. Daryl?
Thank you very much, Rich. I agree with Rachel. This has brought the issue forward, but to require the first line in this, to me, is out of line. If we brought it to everybody's attention, if a committee wants the input from the DNI, then I don't have an issue with that. But this is basically making it mandatory, and that's what I object to.
Pam Delabar?
I believe it or not, I truly understand what Kathy is trying to do. I would like to see more proactive attempting CFA to be more proactive in attempting to include and contact and include more of our communities that would be under the DNI policy and rules. That's where I think that we should be focusing on, rather than just playing. I'm sorry, it's it's CYA. Kathy knows that I have contacted her on other matters, especially dealing with the ID, and I have no problems with interworking with other people on the board. But it did to me feel very directive in the way it was stated.
Okay, Daryl, then I'm going to make a comment after Kathy has a closing statement or closing argument. Go ahead, Daryl.
Does the DNI have a policy statement, something that their committee is ruled by? Is there anything written?
The DNI committee created the policy that's on the CFA website.
Okay, Kathy, go ahead and make your comment, then I'll make a comment.
Okay. I think perhaps this was not a request to make decisions on all committees. This was a request when the decision involves diversity and inclusion, and a committee is talking about it, that is when the someone from the committee could be of benefit. The examples that were brought forward earlier in the report here, the diversity and inclusion team found out about it late and indirectly. We could get in front of some issues if we were just made aware. And diversity and inclusion comes in many different forms. So all we're asking is to be an asset to CFA and not sit on the sidelines. That's it.
Okay. So I understand both sides of this, and from a business perspective, whether it's a personal business or a corporate business, how a situation like this might be handled is leadership in departments that are related, similar to this category, more so with leadership, whether you're a committee chair, you're a board member, you're an officer, you're the executive director, assistant executive director. When you're in the management role, there's typically some type of training required course that businesses will encourage or require people to do. And what Kathy and her committee is trying to offer is a protection to help guide CFA should matters come up. So I don't know the outcome of this motion. Kathy made the motion. We're discussing it. It's not second. My recommendation to Kathy and the committee is to further review this, look at how you want to proceed going forward in training the board of directors, the committee chairs, the management of CFA in recognizing what types of D&I is out there, and at what point in time does the committee get involved and is reported to. Now, for my business, anything that falls under this category would have to get reported to those individuals that are overseeing diversity and inclusion. And it doesn't have to just come from a manager. It could come from a crew member or a supervisor. So we have a motion. I will ask for a second. If we have a second, we'll proceed. If we don't have a second, then we can't proceed. So Kathy has a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Daryl, thank you for the second. We finished with our discussions. I'm going to call for the vote on the motion. Raise your hand if you're in favor. Kathy Calhoun, Kathy Dunham, John Kalua. Please lower your hand. If you're opposed, raise your hand. Kenny, Russell, Daryl, Pam Delabar, Merrill Lee, Carol, Pam Mosier, Paula, Ann, Holly, Yukiko, Mike, Rachel. Please lower your hand. If you're an abstention, please raise your hand. Rachel, I see no abstentions.
That's 3 yes, 13 no, 0 abstentions.
Okay, motion fails. Kathy, do you have any other comments? I see your hands up. Go ahead.
I do. Just to know that the diversity and inclusion team will be going to the budget committee with a request for some sort of training to be offered for our board and perhaps a larger group if we can make that happen. So it is in the works. Of course, this board would have approval on the dollars, and that would be discussed in April.
Thank you, Kathy. Pam Delabar.
I was just going to suggest or recommend actually as the 1975 director of the 5th Army Race Relations and Equal Opportunity course for the Army, that we have D&I training at the June board meeting. And of course, Kathy, you have my support on, and coming up with that. But I do feel that this is the first step that D&I should be taking, is to train the board, and so we can notice and see and be more aware of issues and what comes under D&I and what comes under ADA and a few other things like that. We've got to be progressive and more proactive in our work. We need to be educated in those things.
Thank you, Pam. Kathy and
So that's
the rest of the board, good discussion on that. Thank you all. Kathy, you get to continue.
Yeah, and that is exactly what's going to be presented at the next meeting. Yeah. So, okay.
International Division.
Yep.
Kathy Calhoun.
Okay. So, all the subcommittee chairs participate and provide input on their areas. Talk a little bit. I don't know if Wayne is in the audience.
He is. Do you want me to promote him?
Can you promote him in case he would like to speak to this?
Yeah, absolutely.
So May through January, CFA's held 31 shows in China. There's 16 additional shows being scheduled through the end of the show season, and the shows, the requests keep coming, which is great. We have instituted Bay check-in, so that what we want to make sure that we are doing is to ensure fair play, and that we are aware of we support the health of cats and fair play. So we're doing that. In the December meeting, we talked about a big show in China, and we've been able to put that together. It will be February 24th and 25th. There will be 9 rings, 2 days. So we're really excited about that. And there's a couple pictures of the space. There are 3 clubs that Carol will be bringing forth in her report, and the ID committee is in support of all 3.
Okay, great. Is Wayne in?
Yes, and Bob Zenda is too.
Oh, good.
Okay,
Great.
Wayne, how you doing? Do you have any additional comments?
Not on this, but I may on some other stuff coming up.
Okay, great. Kathy, do you have any additional comments on this first section?
No, I don't. I don't know if John or Matthew might.
John, Lila, do you have any comments? Okay, I'm going to go to Matthew. Okay. Matthew, do you have any comments?
I'm sorry. We're having shows in areas that we haven't had shows for years. We are growing. China is growing leaps and bounds right now. The weekend of shows, we had 2 or 3 shows in a weekend. I think it's going to be keeping like that for the next few years, the way I see it. They're really gung-ho.
Okay, thank you, John. Matthew?
Nope, no further comments. I think I echo with what my team member said. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Kathy, continue.
And the trend continues with Asia other than mainland China. The growth is phenomenal. As of January 14th, 47 shows have been completed, 11 more already licensed, and there are 22 dates that are being reserved. So just phenomenal. And even into the 24-25 season. Indonesia has stepped up and is working on plans for our CFA International Division Awards banquet. We're trying to get ahead of this and make sure that we have those locations identified as early as possible. We have the Thailand country coordinator, who is Zun, and if I'm pronouncing the name wrong, I apologize. It resigned because she wanted to focus on moving forward in the judging program. And we've welcomed Jay to fill that slot. So welcome to him. And we have statistics provided by Dick Kallmeyer. Registrations from breeders in the Philippines so far through November. And Bob is reaching out to members and officers of the Philippines Club to determine if there's some interest in building a new club, just because we are starting to get so many registrations from that area. Bob?
Okay. Yep, before we go on to your motion, let's hear from Bob and then Wayne.
Yeah.
Bob?
Yeah. I'm trying to reach out to the folks in the Philippines, but I'm having some difficulty with it. I have the old records from when I was the Asia guy many years ago, and I'm not getting a responses, and I'm getting bounced emails. So I'm going to need some assistance from Aileen to track down some of these folks who are actually doing the registrations. I think to make any further progress with this, and I'll reach out directly to her and tell her what I've got so far. But otherwise, things are going pretty well in Asia. The number of reservations has increased by another 2 or 3 since I wrote the report. So there's no lack of activities. That's all I have to offer for now.
Okay, Wayne?
I would just reiterate what John Kalila said. It's amazing how many shows and how much interest there is in China. It's so good to see China back up and running again.
Great. Rachel?
Just super quickly, the clubs in the ID are coming fast and furious with exceptions and special things they want to do to increase their shows and the number of awards. I just want to thank the ID committee for their quick response in their recommendations, so we can facilitate these motions and get these clubs in a position where they can advertise their special formats and such. So thank you.
Okay, Kathy?
Okay, so we have an action item. We have 2. So the first one is the Feline Fancier Society of Singapore has requested approval to have a show on June 29, 2024. The club is aware that this conflicts with the CFA annual meeting and awards banquet. This club has the opportunity to have a CFA cat show this weekend, which is also the weekend of the Asia Cat Expo in Singapore. This is a fantastic opportunity to highlight CFA and cost the club would not otherwise be able to afford. The ID committee is 100% in support of the following motion. Allow the Feline Fancier Society of Singapore to have a 1-day 2-ring show with an entry limit of 90 in Singapore on June 29, 2024.
Kenny seconds.
Okay, thank you, Kenny. Discussion? Objections? Seeing no objection, motion passes unanimously. Congratulations to Feline Fancier Society of Singapore to having a show on the CFA annual delegate banquet weekend. Okay, Kathy, continue.
Okay, the next motion, I'll read the rationale. The International Division Committee is well connected with members of the worldwide community, those inside and outside of the International Division. The committee would be remiss if we did not share the concerns voiced by our global community in regard to some decisions made without the input of the ID committee. For instance, the CFA board passed a motion to mandate that an individual must speak English to be able to accept it into the CFA judging program as a trainee. This decision at best creates barriers instead of building bridges. If we are to be considered a global organization, it is imperative that CFA functions as such, and in this case, determines solutions and support. It has been the practice to engage interpreters to support training, which Japan is a clear example of success. In addition, the ID committee would be putting forth additional efforts to develop materials in languages other than English. An additional motion was brought forth and passed not to allow trainees who live in mainland China to train in their home country. This only makes our competing registries in China more appealing to our talented candidates. The International Division can be a resource for other committees in making decisions that have a global impact. A pre-read of the committee's reports and recommendations is far too late to fully benefit the committee and CFAs as to the insights the ID committee might offer. The motion is all CFA committee chairs, co-chairs, board members, and officers reach out to the International Committee through the ID co-chairs when considering decisions, policies, procedures, and recommendations that potentially impact CFA's commitment to maintaining a global presence. The co-chair will engage the subcommittees.
Okay, may I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I got Russell. Okay, discussion. Russell?
Yes. It's the same type of motion that came from the Diversity Committee. And I'm opposed to this because the JPC on several occasions has contacted the ID Committee for a few things that we needed to know, and we didn't get answers. So for me, it's just going to take up a lot of time that we don't have time for. It will hold up other committees. And it's not like trusting the chairs or the committees to make decisions. The JPC is opposed to this. It's going to be a vote no.
Okay, Pam Delabar?
Well, as director of the area that was the original ID, I have 44 countries in this region, 2 of which are at war. I would love to be able to have translations into Spanish and French in particular, possibly Italian. It costs money. And this is something that we just don't feel all that good about asking for more money. But when you're talking global, you're also talking Japan, Region 8, and Europe, Region 9. It's not just the ID. And I think I'm very well aware of global impact on CFA, being that Wayne Harding and I were the first 2 into China and to get CFA started in China back in 2003. So yes, very much aware of global presence because I live it daily.
Daryl?
So interpretation of forms has been an issue. Our rules, registration rules, our bylaws, getting all that stuff translated is not the biggest issue. The biggest issue is maintaining updates on those forms. And during Pam's tenure as president, I served as her ID chair, and that was a big issue for us. And we tried to pick out the most prominent languages to fit most of the exhibitors that come from foreign language countries to exhibit at our shows. But one of my questions is, Kathy, in your rationale, you mentioned several things here that were done that you felt like you should have been pre-noticed on, but you incorporated none of those things in your motion.
Kathy,
May I answer that question?
Yes, please.
Okay, you're absolutely correct, Daryl. This motion was not to redo the past. I voted no on those things that were mentioned. The board voted yes. But I think that we may have been able to been a resource to the JPC when they made those decisions, just to understand the implication. Not asking to be the co-chair of the JPC, not asking for a vote, just be asking to be considered. Now, the international division, when we get a pre-read for a report, and if we want to get information from the ID, we don't have enough time to reach out to all the country coordinators and the area folks to get information. So what we're asking for is very similar to the diversity and inclusion team, to be included up front. A, it could be an education to us, why this is needed. And B, the dialogue back and forth, we may be able to find solutions where everyone wins. This is not a power play by the ID committee. We are only trying to make things better, more inclusive, and be able to give some input from our constituents to our committees. So purposely, no, we did not ask to reverse any decisions that were made. They've been made. But moving forward, perhaps we can find solutions that are inclusive, that build bridges, instead of setting up walls as to why individuals cannot participate. And your point is well taken, Daryl, that the translations of documents is paramount, and keeping them current. We have to do it. If we're going to, we have to do it. And Pam, I'm not excluding Europe and Japan, but this is the ID report. So I talk about the ID. I did mention Japan earlier on as being a prime example of how training through a translator worked. So I hope I answered all those questions.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. Pam Delabar.
I was just going to remind everybody that the reason that we did not allow first specialty judges to train in China was due to the problems with the NGOs and the problems of getting the shows for which they could train, and that was the driving factor of that. Not because we wanted to say, oh no, we don't want trainees in China whatsoever. We would have had a lot of fun with a trainee last week, but and I have had trainees in China, so I know what it is like in the past. But that was the reason for doing that, not to be prejudiced against one country over another.
Penny?
Can I respond
Kathy,
to that?
I'm gonna let you do it all in closing.
Okay.
Penny?
Yeah, again, I have the same problem I had with the D&I. It's too much power. The board needs input, particularly from the business aspect that could impact CFA in all of these areas, particularly the ID. Most of our losses recently have been coming from that area. It's good to hear that we're having a comeback in some ways, but I still think that the board needs to maintain some power in this committee. Seems to want everything to funnel through them. I would like to ask Russell and Vicky, how has the communication been with the ID? Because I understand there's been some problems with people that are asking particular questions and they never get answers.
Yeah. Actually, Vicky has emailed the ID on certain subjects and we didn't get answers. It took a long time, and sometimes we've got to make decisions with training in other countries, and we have to do it quick, and we're going to have to wait on this stuff. The other thing is I know because I'm copied on certain things from other countries that they're not getting answers. And I think that's going to be a problem. And I agree that to give this is giving the ID committee too much power. And we need the board. It would really almost override the board. So that's my answer. I think that we can't support this, the JPC.
Kenny, are you finished? Matthew?
Thank you. I think recently, Rich, you're also involved in quite a few email conversation, and just echo what Russell said, you're copy on some of the emails. Because from a lot of the ID fanciers, we are the first contact point. ID committee is like the concierge desk to all these ID fanciers. And there are a lot of new fanciers joining CFA, and they're not so familiar with the committee structure. So recently, what we face is they felt that quite different to what you say is, actually, I find the ID committee, we have very little decision power, right? We basically approve shows, and when there's a special format, we go to the board, and many things we cannot decide, from which judging in what shows, what color allowed, any new color, new breed. Rick just helped us to answer a very long email to a fancy in Asia. And we have to clarify that a lot of the decisions, we can be the coordinator to communicate with other committees, judging committees, breed standard, breed secretary, but it's not up to us to decide. So what we're asking here is some of the decision, while they land in this board meeting and get voted, where we get John and Kathy and the committee to vote. When we get vote down, we respect the decision, but we are being put at a very awkward spot with all the ideas saying, how come you don't voice it? How come you don't express our voice? But because we weren't too involved in the discussion in the first place. So I hear you. I mean, we're not, as Kathy said, we have no intention to empower ourselves, but we just offer ourselves and want to be involved. Thank you.
John?
I just want to comment about the training in China. The only reason that was an issue because the training happened to work for the government. If it's a non-government worker, I do not see a problem having Chinese people training in China.
Matt or Wayne, you had your hand up and took it down. Do you have comments?
Actually, I was going to try to clarify the same thing that John just brought up. It was passed that Chinese trainees could only train outside of China. It is not a problem for the trainees to train within China as long as they do not work for the government. When they work for the government, there becomes a problem with the NGO. If they do not work for the government, it is not a problem. And I think it's putting a huge burden on these people that are going to start training from China. I understand that they may be required to do some training outside of China, but I see no reason that they can't do some of their training within China.
Okay. Kathy Calhoun.
Yeah, Russell, your comment about not being responsive is maybe one or several people's interpretation. That's not true. We had, in October, we had one of the first mid-year town halls for the ID, where I think we probably were, that town hall may have lasted 2.5 to 3 hours. Some of the new people in the ID feel that the committee has more power than we have. So it's not that we're not responsive, it's just that we can't provide the answers that they want. And we can't do the things they want as a committee. Those are board decisions. The NGO thing has been explained completely. We would like to be able to be a resource. This is the same thing as the diversity and inclusion, a resource. I'm not sure why it is coming across as a power play. The purpose is to do the right thing for CFA. and for our customers. And I'm sure a lot of these decisions in committee have lengthy discussions that we don't have visibility to. And as I said, we could better explain the rationale if we were part of the process. That's all.
Okay, I'm going to call for the vote on this. If you're in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. Kathy Calhoun, Kathy Dunham, John Kalila, please lower your hand. If you're opposed, raise your hand. Kenny, Rachel, Russell, Pam Delabar, Daryl, Ann, Marilee, Polly, Paula, Yukiko, Carol, Mike, please lower your hand. If you're an abstention, raise your hand. No abstentions. Rachel?
I did not get a vote from Pam Moser. I think it just went too quickly.
As a no.
Is a no. Okay, that's 3 yes, 13 no, 0 abstentions.
Okay, motion fails.
Thanks, Pam.
Okay, Kathy, do you have anything else?
No, but to any feedback or ideas that you have that you feel that the ID committee would benefit from, we welcome personal input from each and every board member.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. Kathy Dunham, you have awards?
Yep.
Okay, please continue.
There are no action items from the committee. This is just an update. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Kathy? No questions. Kathy, great job.
Thanks.
And thank you. We're going to move on. Carol, club membership.
Yes, we have 4 club applicants to consider today. The first 3 club applicants are all based in Shanghai, China, but they plan on producing shows in different areas somewhat. Asia Glory Cat Fanciers is the first all-breed club based in Shanghai that plans to produce 5 shows a year in the city of Shenzhen in Southeast China. Shenzhen is located in the coastal province of Guangdong and is situated just to the north of Hong Kong. Shenzhen is an important global center for industry, research, and finance, and with a population of over 17.5 million, it is the 3rd most populous city in China after Shanghai and Beijing. The club members' breeding and show production experience is provided in my report. I move to accept Asia Glory Cat Fanciers.
John Kalila, are you a second?
I second and I support this club. It is an
Okay.
area we haven't had a show in a long time. So far, there's 2 shows. We need to grow that area. I fully support this club.
Okay. Wayne Harding, do you have any comments?
No comments, but I also support this club. It was an area where we had quite a few shows at one point, and we haven't had any for a long time, so it'll be nice to get back there.
Okay. Any discussion? Any objections? Okay. I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Carol, Daryl, Kenny, Kathy Calhoun, Ann, Polly, Yukiko, Kathy Dunham, Pam Delabar, Russell, John, Paula, Mike, Marilee. Lower your hands. If you're opposed, raise your hand. Pam Moser. Lower your hand. If you're an abstention, raise your hand. 0 abstentions. Rachel?
I was a yes also. That's 15 yes, 1 no, 0 abstentions.
Motion passes. Congratulations, Asia Glory Cat Fanciers. Carol, continue.
Yes, this next is China AWL Cat Fanciers Club. The second Aubrey Club, based in Shanghai, plans to produce 3 or 4 shows a year, either in Shanghai or Guangdong Province. Shanghai is one of 4 direct-controlled municipalities in China. It is situated on the Yangtze River Delta in the central part of East China Coast. With a population of over 26 million, Shanghai is China's largest city and a global center for scientific research, along with a variety of industries. The club members' breeding and show production experience is provided in my report. I move to accept China AWL Cat Fanciers Club.
John Kalila, are you a second?
I support this, highly recommending approving this club, especially they want to put on show southern part of China. Like I said before, we have not much activity about the southern part of China. It's important that we grow that area.
John, you're a second, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Wayne, do you have any comments?
No comment, but I do support this club.
Thank you. Any questions? Any objections? Okay, I'm going to call for the vote. If you're a yes, please raise your hand. John, Rachel, Kathy Calhoun, Carol, Daryl, Kenny, Holly, Kathy Dunham, Russell, Mike, Ann, Paula, Marilee, Yokiko, Pam Delabar. Please lower your hand. If you're opposed, raise your hand. Pam Mosier. Okay, if you're Pam, lower your hand. If you're an abstention, raise your hand. No abstentions.
That's
Rachel?
15. Oh, sorry. 15 yes, 1 no, 0 abstentions.
Okay, motion passes. Congratulations, China AWL Cat Fanciers Club. Carol, continue.
The next application is China Yangtze River Cat Fanciers Club. The third Aubrey Club, based in Shanghai, is a former CFA club that was dropped in June 2023 for not meeting the membership requirements. Prior to that time, the club produced several successful shows. The club plans to produce 3 shows a year in Shanghai. I previously provided an overview of Shanghai and its approximate population. The club members' breeding and show production experience is provided in my report. I move to accept China Yangtze River Cat Fanciers Club.
John Kalila, are you a second?
I second, and I also support having this club moving forward so they can start putting on shows in Shanghai.
Okay. Wayne, do you have anything to add?
No, I support this also.
Okay. Discussion? Objections? Okay, I'm going to call for the vote. If you're in favor, raise your hand. Carol, Kathy Calhoun, Kenny, Paula, Yokiko, Marilee, Kathy Dunham, Rachel, Holly, Russell, Daryl, Pam Delabar, Mike, Ann, John. Please lower your hand. If you are opposed, raise your hand. Pam Mosier. Lower your hand. If you're an abstention, raise your hand. No abstentions.
That's
Rachel?
15 yes, 1 no, 0 abstentions.
Motion passes. Congratulations, China Yangtze River Cat Fanciers Club. Carol?
Yes, the fourth and last club application to consider today is from Dolce Vita Cat Club. While this all-breed club is based in Obninsk, Russia, the club plans to produce shows in Italy. This is an international group of fanciers that plans to produce 2 or 3 shows a year in various cities within Italy, such as Milan, Turin, Verona, Genoa, and Rome. With the board's permission, the club also plans to produce an annual in conjunction show with another association in Italy. The club members' breeding and show production experience is provided in my report. I move to accept Dolce Vita Cat Club.
Pam Delabar, are you a second? You're on mute, Pam.
Sorry about that. I will second this. I also support the club, and I would like to make a few statements. One, on some of the materials that you were provided, Europe actually has 30 clubs, not 29. And I would also like to say that all 30 clubs are in good standing. One way that I have tried to build this region is with my contacts with other organizations. We are the 3rd child of Europe. There are 2 other very large organizations, and I have been working very hard to try to get people to also show CFA. I'm not asking them to leave their associations. I'm asking them to please come up and join us. And this has been quite successful in several areas. 2 weeks ago, I was in Italy, and I talked to several of the show producing people in the area. They're very neutral about this club. Some people are worried that they're going to be bringing in, some fierce competition, and yes, they will. One of the people that was brought up in the one negative letter, I will mention the association, FIFA, had their world show in Strasbourg, France, this last October. This Persian breeder, in category 1, which are exotics, Persians, ragdolls, etc., there are 6 world winner titles that can be won in category 1. This breeder she got 4 of the 6 world winner titles. Very competitive cats. So we have possibly, some consternation going on about the level of cats. Now, we have some rather different organizations within Europe. This is one of them. The club is actually based in Italy. The secretary is a CFA person who has a tier 2 superior category, who has been working with several of these people in the club in convincing them to give CFA a good try. The shows are going to be in Italy. They really don't really know the inner administrative workings of CFA, and that's why the secretary came on. He intends not to be secretary as soon as the others can get more involved with CFA and can take over the secretary slot. I have absolutely no problems with this club. In fact, I am looking forward to some of these shows. We haven't had shows in Rome in a long time. We used to have more clubs in Italy. This would give us a 3rd club, and I'm all for it.
So Pam, before I ask for further discussion, you made a comment. This club is actually in Italy, or is it in Russia?
We put things by where the secretary is. The secretary is in Russia. Most of the members are in Italy.
Okay. All right.
The shows are going to be The majority of the club is in Italy.
Okay, I just wanted clarification on that. Thank you. Any further discussion? Any objections? Seeing no objection, motion passes unanimously. Congratulations, Dolce Vita Cat Club. Carol?
That's all I have. Thank you.
Does anyone have any additional questions for Carol? Okay. We are at